Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the B-Side podcast where we discuss business, blockchain, and of course, Bitcoin. Today with me is an amazing guest, Martin Betz. Martin, it's so great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Martin is the founder of UTXO Solutions and also a host of NODESIGNAL, Bitcoin-only podcast, which is super exciting, and I would love to learn more. So maybe we can kick it off with learning a bit more of your background, Martin, and also what brought you into this space and what actually inspired you to run both of them.
So I was working in IT project management and innovation management for the largest German telco provider for like 13 years. And always have been doing tech stuff and trying new technologies and see how new technologies impact the behavior of people. And then in 2021, I started to get into Bitcoin. A colleague of mine was very much into Bitcoin, and we started to have calls for 3 hours a day just to discuss Bitcoin, and really fell deep into the rabbit hole. Listened to 8 hours of podcast on double speed per day, and really was sucked into the topic. And within 2.5 months, decided to quit my job to do something with Bitcoin, and started to do what I now do is UTXO Solutions, where we help Bitcoin companies, so companies that mainly deal with business models that evolve and revolve around either the Bitcoin community or the Bitcoin technology, like micropayments, like mining, like whatever, or have it as a big part of their business model and technology stack, to help them find out what their customers truly need. And we help companies to really find out how to build products that their users love, that they want to use, and not just coming from the technology side, but really coming from the user side, and help them achieve product market fit. Because something that you quite often see is people are very much in love with the technology, and then they build something because they want to build something with the technology, but don't care that much about what the market needs, and then sometimes get a angry blow in the face from the market later on, and I don't want this to happen to people.
I think this is spot on. Me myself working in the tech companies as well, I experienced this a lot. I mean, engineers have got their own perspective on how the product should be used, and also they have got their own perspective on the feature set, etc. Well, it not necessarily correspondence to what the end users might actually look for. So I think this is very good that you're helping out those businesses. But maybe let's go a bit deeper into this. So my question is, do you see any differences between Bitcoin focus or Bitcoin related businesses versus other businesses? Is there any specific characteristics of those companies that you believe make them operate a bit differently?
Yes and no. So there are some, and there are some that are not that special as the Bitcoin community sometimes thinks. So overall, what you can see with Bitcoin is it works, that there are some similar patterns on how communities around new technologies and new trends evolve. So if you go into, let's say, the AI bubble and look and talk with people there, then they're like, AI will change the world, and everything is different through AI. And we as an AI company, we are very different and very special, and we are not comparable. And all the other people that don't understand AI, especially pre-ChatGPT, where now everyone has a grasp on AI, they were like, okay, they don't get it, and how amazing this is, and AI is part of everything, and so on. And in this regard, new technology focused businesses are very similar. So this is like one big area that feels to Bitcoiners, to Bitcoin companies, very special, but it is not special Bitcoin, but special for new technology. Then there are some other sides that I think truly are different, and this is because Bitcoin is not just a technology like AI or VR or whatever, but it is a monetary technology. And that means that it kind of merges the new technology and different money games bubble with each other. And you have people that have a very specific view on how technology and money can interact and build new business models. And for example, the whole topic of micropayments via Lightning, payment streaming, podcasting is a very interesting example for this, changes how business is done in certain areas because you suddenly have more of a community-based, peer-to-peer, international money transfer and thus international business connection level to it that you don't find in every other industry. So, for example, when I work with Bitcoin companies, you see that they are much more international because Bitcoin itself is global. And you don't see this with, for example, an AI company might still have most of their people in the Silicon Valley and very few highly talented engineers from, let's say, Nigeria, which is in Bitcoin companies quite often the case, as they are globally, because they have a way to exchange money on a global way.
My another question would be, do you believe that Bitcoin related companies have got a big advantage over the other companies in terms of attracting Bitcoiners?
Attracting Bitcoiners for sure.
And polarizing the other coiners?
Polarizing. No, not just the other coiners. I don't think that's the issue. There is some, how to say this? There's, as you said, polarity is a good word. It's a double-edged sword. So in attracting talent, of course, you have this Bitcoin is not just a technology, but for some people it changes their lifestyle, which mainly comes from the scarce or the limited nature of the Bitcoin supply. Because something that you see in Bitcoiners quite often is that because you know that everything that you buy, you could have bought Bitcoin instead, and in like 4 or 5 years time, it's going to 4x, 5x its value probably. And so you think about how much value it brings you in a way different way. So you, for example, I'm now currently thinking about, should I buy new headphones because my old ones are starting to do things they shouldn't, battery isn't that good anymore, and new headphones cost like 200 euro. And I think like, yeah, but do I want to spend 800 euros on new headphones? Yeah. Because it's because before the bull run, so the headphone has to have a value of 800 euros instead of 200 euros. And that's a totally different value proposition that they have to make. And so this changes your whole belief system, I think, more than it does in AI. Although in AI, you may ask different, very personal belief system oriented question like free will, like how much autonomy will we have in the future, our role as humans on the planet, which you don't have in Bitcoin. So maybe that's not too different after all, but I think there is some difference, and this has a high attraction. So many Bitcoiners want to score a job in Bitcoin, but as a Bitcoin company, you don't necessarily need people that know Bitcoin, but you need people that know business. Even more than you need people, because that's the bigger skill in the end.
Sure, that's a great point. I know that you guys have been doing like a lot of research on the areas to improve or the customer requirements for Bitcoin and not only Bitcoin related products. Can you share some insights that could be interesting for the audience and for those of you guys who are building on Bitcoin or in general, business guys?
So the kind of, maybe a short overview or the kind of research that we usually do. So what we usually do is we work together with customers that want to find out how they can build better products or market their products better or sell them better or create loyalty long term. And we do this by understanding what job this product is doing in the customer's life, the so-called jobs to be done theory. And the basic idea is that every product creates a progress in its customer's life. So if I buy new headphones, it creates a progress of I can go on long walks and listen to podcasts, and in this way, earbuds are a part of increasing my health, for example, and getting more sunlight, which is not something that why people buy headphones. You would think they buy it for music or because they can't listen to music, but it might be something where they say, okay, but I'm not going out, I'm not taking long walks because I can't listen to podcasts because the battery of my headphone is shit. So something like this, and understand really the true decision parameters and the limiting context that they move in and so on. And of course, this applies to Bitcoin as well. So we have done an extensive study on why people choose Bitcoin as a solution. Because when you talk with Bitcoiners, one of the common terms is this orange pilling, convincing other people that Bitcoin is the solution. But to which problem? And this is the same. It's the same supply side thinking where you basically say, I have a solution, take my solution, without understanding what the problem of the people is. And this is what we did there. And you have some of the things that are kind of obvious, like people starting to understand inflation and how they struggle with raise in costs of living and food and not being able to save and being afraid of retirement and so on. You sometimes have people that have all this international monetary transfer thing. You have the technology people. Some people go in it because I can play with a Raspberry Pi and build my own node and so on. And so there are very different jobs what Bitcoin does for people. And yeah, we did a lot of research on why people actually choose Bitcoin as a solution, or even before that, in which scenarios do they even think about getting a new solution, regardless of whether this new solution is Bitcoin, crypto, buying art as an investment, trying to work harder to earn more money to afford their living style. So all these different solutions that are in competition with each other, but under which circumstances do people actually ask the question of what could be a better solution, what needs to happen, what events need to happen, and so on. And this is what we did. And it's quite fascinating because the stories that we as Bitcoiner tell us why Bitcoin is amazing, and the situations when people actually start to take an interest into Bitcoin partially overlap, but by far not full.
Overlap with what we have in mind, why people get interested into this space. Okay, so we'll just give us a couple of examples of what are the let's say the real traits of what is happening and what we believe what is happening and which is not really the truth.
Yeah, and one of the things where most people, and this is not that surprising, the majority of people comes into Bitcoin because of monetary issues. So the majority of people have like, my friend bought Bitcoin 3 years ago and now his portfolio has beaten mine moment, or not necessarily I can't afford my living expenses, because then you're in a different situation. But mostly sometimes like FOMO, people missing out, these type of, and number go up is like still one of the primary things. This is where it is overlapping, even though many Bitcoiners after some time, like, I don't look at the price, I just hodl forever, and kind of deny the number go up part of Bitcoin as part of their motivation, even though if you look at it close enough, and if you looked at, I don't know, Bitcoin Twitter during the time where the spot ETF approval was incoming, and like suddenly every one of those that said, I'm not looking at the price, looked at the price really hard and talked a lot about the price. So this is where you have then a mismatch. If you look at this whole freedom technology and it will liberate countries, for some it is. We did this on a geographical scale, mainly in the German-speaking area.
You mean the narrative
there it is
of
not an
Bitcoin
issue.
being like a revolution of the freedom and
Yes,
in the sense of self-sovereign money
yes,
that
yes,
people can have. Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, of course, we found very little of this, but we did a study in Germany mostly, and there it's not that big of a deal because while you still have banks, it's not yet a totally broken system.
Yeah, we could probably talk about it for a while, but 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 I understand your point. I mean, most of the people have got access to financial services. They don't have any problem with opening a bank
Yes,
account and transferring, paying on a daily basis for whatever
yes,
needs they may have. So I understand that in this sense, the system is working. Responds to the need in terms of the any financial inclusion narrative, I would say, in
yeah.
in Europe, and in most part of the Europe. Okay, yeah.
A good example for a story that that we as Bitcoiners often tell ourselves that seems to be not backed by data is it lowers transaction costs and is therefore interesting to merchants. And that's like not relevant because yeah, you might have lower transaction costs as a merchant, but if only 0.2% of your customers ever pay in Bitcoin, you're not saving that much in comparison to setting up a node and the effort that goes along with that.
Fair point. It's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things unless you are selling only with Bitcoin, right? And no one's doing this, or most of the people are not doing this yet.
But there you have then other effects. So for example, if you look at Shop and Bit, they are like the Bitcoin only Amazon. And they have different effects, like the return rate of items is significantly lower. So they have around, I think, 1% average return rate on all the goods they sell, because Bitcoiners seem to think harder on what they want to spend their Bitcoin on. And once they spend their Bitcoin on, they say it's fine. And if you look at item return rate for, let's say, clothing, then you're usually at 50% average. And
Yeah.
between 50% and 1%, or even for books where you have like 12%, you go down to 1%, you're saving a lot as a merchant, which is way more important than the transaction cost.
So you think, and you've discovered that Bitcoiners actually have got this lower time preference, so they think twice about what they're going to spend their Bitcoin on, assuming that it will go up, the price of it will go up in the future. And then the other way that they are pretty much hesitant to actually, return the stuff they bought because it's well thought out. Okay,
Which is an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time, because they sometimes tend to underspend on their business growth.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
every investment has to compete. There, it's the same. Suddenly, your investment in understanding your customers better is like 4 times the price, and is it then still valuable enough for you? And this is a valid discussion that you need to have. But sometimes you pay more in the end if you don't invest in your business, in marketing, and getting the help you need when you start a business. And so this is sometimes it's good because they're not spending too much on useless stuff, but sometimes they're spending not enough on useful stuff.
Not enough.
And something,
Yeah.
And then of course there's the like t-shirts and so on. There is no low time preference spending. That's all this belief community. I want to have
Sure.
a Bitcoin hoodie thing.
Okay, so once we are sticking to the business side, what advice would you give to a starting business in the Bitcoin space, preferably, or with some Bitcoin component? Let's say they have got an idea around micropayments, maybe. What is the first thing you would do in terms of trying to understand what is actually needed on the market, and how would you start, like with low budget, how would you start discovering the needs of the potential clients?
So I give you a rough outline on what we usually do. and then break it down to what you can do on a low budget base. From that,
Sure.
that will give you, if you really, and if you're starting, sometimes you just don't have any money to spend it on some professional to do the thing
Exactly.
for you. So what we usually do is we start with, you always start with an idea. That's like, it's totally fine. You start with an idea, and then you start to map down all your assumptions. So all your assumptions around this idea to really understand what you think is true, what needs to happen to be true, for this to actually work. And what do you think is the solution? Who do you think are your competitors? What is the pain that you're alleviating from your customers? What are the gains? What fears do they have? What things maybe need to happen for them to realize that your solution is interesting? And really, we have a full framework on what the different elements of progress are, which are usually jobs. So the progress that your product is supposed to do for the customer in his life, something that it will make better for him, the limiting context that he's moving. So like drinks on the beach is way different for a mom with 3 kids than for the dad hanging out with his boys, and the market environment is pretty different. So the limiting context that excludes situations, pains in different forms. So things that they don't like about their current solutions, things that they don't want to have in their future solutions, gains, things they like in their current solution and that they don't like in their future solution, events, what needs to happen. Like think about when you switch your job, for example, then usually it's like the first time your boss is like not supporting you in a management meeting. Then at the second time, he like didn't give you a raise, although you did great work. And then some headhunter presents you with an offer, and all these 3 need to happen for you to actually take the offer. If everything has been fine before, the events didn't happen, you don't need to change. So think about all these and make some hypotheses. And then from that, try to find out with whom do you need to talk, who do you need to understand, so that you get a better feel on how things are, and really try to understand your target customer. And this is usually where we also do the research, so all this preparation, this screening, candidate selection, and so on. And then we do the research. And then when you do this, interview them, but make sure that you understand what their problem is. Never talk about your solution. No, would you buy my product if it was purple? But just how did they do decisions in the past? What metrics do they make? Like, why did you buy the shirt that you have now? What happened on that day? What made you choose that shirt? Do you remember when you bought that shirt? You were in the shop, and then why did you pick this one? Why not the green one to the left? Did you just wake up one morning and say, I need new shirts. Now I'm going to go and buy. No, what happened? So finding out all these triggers and then getting them, aggregating them, and really trying to, and then from there, there's a whole process that we follow, and trying to get all these information into a form and try to build value propositions that match one, so not all the problems that your customer have, but one problem that the customer have, and addresses all of them, and really build a product that fits that. Before you go into development, before you start coding, before anything, try to understand your customer and build a product in your mind, conceptualize it, and try to really get there. Because if you try to work in solutions, you will always start asking questions that relate to the solution
that you already built.
That you already built or that you have in mind. And then you're not finding out that there's maybe a way better, way easier solution that you could build because you already decided for one. And so if you're starting new, put customer research, I'm biased on this, of course, but put customer research in the beginning, try to understand your customer and try to build the product that the market wants, not the product that you want.
But I think it's a great framework. So basically, from an idea, you go to the homework part, which is like the tough part, the research, and the discussions and the interviews, and as you mentioned, better understanding of the whole framework and circumstances around it.
Yeah.
Great. And I think at the very, very beginning, if you've got the right framework and you include the elements and you're able to somehow put it in a mapped canvas, you can start on your own, and then it makes
Yeah.
sense. You go for more specialized support like yours, which actually deeps down.
And this is something that you can practice. So
Mhm.
we do business meetups, for example, and I've been talking to one, and he was like, I don't know how I should solve this problem. And I was like, just go and ask someone who has done it before. Just go and ask. And it was like kind of a revolutionary idea for him. But the thing is, you can
Yeah.
practice doing these decision interviews. So like when you're in a coffee, when you buy a coffee, you can, and there isn't a huge line behind you, obviously, you can ask your barista, why did you become a barista? And try to find
Yeah.
out what made him do this decision. When you go there and you ask one of your friends that you're with, why did you choose this one? Why did you choose this, I don't know, almond milk latte and not something else? What made you choose? What were your reasons? And then try to really, and because then it is very easy, it is low commitment, it doesn't involve your own product, but you get the skills to do it before you actually go into having to do this for your own product.
What it makes me think is that what you actually need is the openness to ask questions and the courage to ask questions, and that's it. And the right questions, of course, like we discussed over here. So these are the two things, guys, that you actually need to start your business from the very scratch, from the idea, and then build on top of it a very basic market research that will help you out with kicking it off. Martin, my last question: what future do you think is going to be there for Bitcoin?
I think we will see multiple iterations. The first one that we're currently in is Bitcoin as a store of value reaching mainstream. And probably the next phase will be Bitcoin as a medium of exchange reaching
maybe not mainstream,
not niche
but
business, not mainstream,
significant.
but early adopter business level. So where because you need to have Bitcoin to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And one thing that many businesses currently struggle, from my perspective, is that their customers don't have Bitcoin. So, for example, we did a project with an automotive company on pay per use via Lightning. So, for example, if you think of Tesla's heatable wheel, so where you can turn on, I mean, it's not a topic in Dubai, but in colder regions where you can turn on the heating for your steering wheel, and then it becomes warm, and that is nice in the winter and so on. And it's a feature. And Tesla condensed its line so that that all the Teslas have this feature, but it can be activated via purchase over the air as a software update. And you could do the same thing as a pay per use thing. So where you turn it on, and in that moment you stream sats to Tesla, which is interesting unless none of your customer has any Bitcoin, has any sats to spend on this, and it's not going to work. So the whole topic relies on customers actually having Bitcoin. So I think I hope
that with every Tesla car, the brakes will be included. And
pay per use for the brakes. Oh, you're out of balance. You're out of brakes. I guess that's the limit to where you can add pay per use systems.
That would be a bummer. But it's a great example. So you believe that in the future, this could be a great way to actually interact with the stuff that we actually need at this point in time. So Bitcoin as money, basically.
Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, not necessarily for everyday goods, but more for like things like payment streaming, pay per use. IoT, I think, is a big big area because there you have machine to machine payments, and
Yeah.
this is very well. Podcasting and media, huge business. So as I mentioned, we have a podcast, NODESIGNAL, and we are a value for value podcast. So that means that people, we don't do any advertisement, but people send us some Satoshis if they like our content or if they like an episode or to send us a message or so on. It's a little bit like Patreon and so on, but on Lightning. Yeah, support. Yeah. And we cover all our costs, all our expenses just from what people send us and make some extra. And it really works because this whole value for value thing works. So in media, this is something where you find early adoption. And I think these will be the next two phases. Mainstream adoption as an asset and early majority adoption as a medium of exchange and base layer for business.
Great insights. Thank you so much, Martin, for today's conversation. It was amazing to have you. And guys, if you are still hesitant or don't know where to start your Bitcoin journey, please make sure to visit bitcoinfocus.com and make sure to schedule a free call, and let's jump into it. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe and give us a like and thumbs up. Thank you so much, Martin, once again, and see you all next time.
Bye.